In the second section of our troubleshooting guide, we're going to talk about what to do if your hot rod is not heating up. We call it the hot rod, or the film cutoff rod is not getting up to temperature. Please just note that if you're just turning on the machine for the day and the rod's cool, it does take 10 to 15 minutes to get up to cutting temperature. So it will take a little bit longer for the initial heat. But once it's on, it should stay hot constantly.
Okay, so if your hot rod is not heating up at all and the GFCI is not tripped, you'll want to check the 1 amp circuit breaker, which you'll find on the back of the unit closer to this right side. And it's going to look like a little black switch. It'll say 1 amp in the bottom corner. And if it's tripped, it's going to be flipped out and you're going to see a white top. All you have to do is just push the top end back in. If it pushes in and you can no longer see the white, then it's reset successfully. If not, then you have some kind of issue where you'll have to open the electrical box and delve into the reasons why the circuit breaker cannot be reset. So if your hot rod does not heat up and your GFCI is not tripped, you'll want to check the 1 amp circuit breaker. This will be found on the back side of the unit. It's going to look exactly like this. It has 1 amp listed on the bottom corner. You'll know that this is tripped if the top side is flipped out and you can see the white top. You'll want to disconnect, or you'll want to turn power off to the machine and then attempt to reset the circuit breaker by pushing in the top side of the switch. If it does not reset, then the circuit breaker will need to be replaced. If it does, go ahead and turn the unit back on. If it trips again, then you have some type of issue that could be with the hot rod itself. At that point, you'll need to perform some troubleshooting to determine if the hot rod needs to be replaced. Okay, so if your hot rod is not working and your 1 amp circuit breaker is not tripped, what you'll want to do is disconnect the hot rod with the power off and the machine unplugged, and we're going to want to check the resistance of the hot rod itself. So we have two different kinds of hot rods depending on when your machine was manufactured. You'll have one that's going to have armored cable that looks like this, and then you're going to have another kind that's going to just be black shrink tubing. So what you'll want to do is push down on these terminal block tabs to disconnect the hot rod. We're going to connect to each side, and then we're going to switch this over to read ohms. For the armored cable hot rod, you're going to want to see between 130 to 140 ohms. In this case, this one's around 137. And for the hot rod that has the black heat shrink tubing around it, you're going to want to see between, and for the hot rod that has the black heat shrink tubing, you're going to want to see about 260 to 270 ohms. Okay, so if your hot rod checks out okay, but you're still having issues with the hot rod heating up, and the 1 amp circuit breaker doesn't show as tripped, what you can do is plug the machine back in, and we're going to turn it on. We're going to switch our multimeter to read AC volts, and what you'll want to do is there's a couple of small holes on the top so you can insert your meter probes. So we'll stick the probe in there to see if we're going to get the 110, 120 volts. At that point, if you don't have voltage there, the issue could still be the circuit breaker. I would replace that, and then if that's not the case, then you may have a problem with the GFI.